Number 7, Ian Campbell says, and Campbell, by the way, Ian, your last name, Campbell. Does anyone call you Ian Campbell? Because in my head, like I always say February with 2 R's, right? February, because in my head it's the phonetics. Anyway, does anybody call you that, or is it just Campbell? I'm curious. You say, I'm a hobbyist game developer and have started making Bible-themed games. I want to include Jesus in one of my projects, but feel uncomfortable writing words for him. Any advice? Can I even do this? I think that in theory it's possible. I think you just have to be super careful. The reverence that we have for Christ is super important. The involvement that he would have in something like that. I'd imagine in a project like that, you wouldn't want that presence, presentation of Christ to be overly present, because the more he talks, the more you're going to find things that look like deviations from what Jesus would have said. And this is the problem. One of the problems with trying to do a project like, say, the Chosen TV series. Not inherently a problem. Okay. I consider it fan fiction. And I think if people look at it that way, they could go, oh, this is interesting. Oh, interesting decision they made. I don't consider it a reenactment of any kind. The more they have these characters talk, the more they're going to have inevitably deviations from, what was probably what really happened. It's just inevitable. It's unavoidable. So one way to deal with that is to just not have him doing as much. Other ways to do it as a game developer is you could do things that are more like allegory, right? You have a character who represents Christ, but isn't Christ. And so C.S. Lewis does this with his Chronicles of Narnia. Aslan is the Jesus character, but nobody thinks for a second that what Aslan says Jesus is saying. There's no confusion there. So that's another approach you could also have. I would encourage you to be very careful. The more you know Jesus, the more you study theology, the better you'll be able to consider these things and to know what the teachings are of Scripture. But if you have an actual Jesus character who's saying things that Jesus didn't actually say, you're inevitably going to be moving into at least concerning territory. And the more cautious and thoughtful and careful you are, the better. There's pros and cons, though. I don't know if Scripture has given us clarity on that. Maybe do the game in a way that everybody knows. You're not trying to say Jesus actually says this. It's just your understanding of how Jesus is. You're becoming a teacher in a particular fashion. You're teaching people by putting words in the mouth of Christ. They better be consistent with Christ. Read James 3, first few verses there. Let not many of us seek to be teachers. We'll be judged more strictly. Well, it is a teaching thing to put words in the mouth of Jesus. So I'm not saying you can. I'm saying you will be judged very strictly based on this. So you better have that strict judgment on your own content before it goes out. God give you wisdom. I'm glad we have Christian game developers that care about that kind of stuff. That's wonderful, Ian. I hope that God directs you.